based upon this that I need to make sure that I'm going to be collecting a hadith which is Sahih. Now, Imam Al-Albānī rahmatullahi alayhi, he had said, I have some notes regarding this issue, which is that is Imam An-Nawawī saying the hadith is Sahih. For verily, that is, we know that Al-Albānī rahmatullahi alayhi, he said that yes, most of the hadith is Sahih, but actually after checking this book, we have found that, as I said, if you remember the introduction, about 40-ish hadith which are not authentic. And he says that maybe the excuse for Al-Imam An-Nawawī, even being he's a muhaddith himself, that he did not point out these hadith or did not take this hadith out of his book because of a number of reasons. He says that reason number one, that he himself depended upon the authentication of Al-Imam At-Tirmidhi and also the Imam Abu Dawud rahimahullah in his Sunan being quiet regarding some of the hadith, which made the Imam An-Nawawī to say that these hadith is to be authentic. Imam An-Nawawī had actually mentioned that in his book, the other book which is called Al-Adhkar, which he said, and I'm quoting here, that we have been given as a narration in Sunan Abi Dawud with an authentic chain, which he did not make unauthentic. That means he did not speak about it. So he had depended upon the saying of Imam Abu Dawud when he did not say anything regarding the hadith, that this hadith is to be authentic. But he did not himself, Imam An-Nawawī, to basically get some time and to go and do the checking himself onto that hadith, just like the muhaddithin would do. And Imam Al-Albānī said if he had done so, he would have come to the conclusion that that hadith is not sahih. Very rarely we find that scholars that would, for example, check every single hadith that they quote from the muhaddithin, save some of those very few, like Imam Al-Albānī, who used to do the checking himself. He would not depend upon the checking of, for example, Abu Dawud or the Imam At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah. So if Imam An-Nawawī had some time to check it, he would have himself found out that this hadith that he's mentioning is to be unauthentic. And he had actually declared that in some of the books of his, like for example, in the introduction of the book of Al-Adhkar, he said, and I'm quoting here, that as for what is not, it is in the hadith of Sālihīn, Al-Bukhari and Muslim, that I will mention the book of the Sunan and others, which I will declare it is sahih or it is hasan or da'if. So if it is da'if, I will leave it out. But sometimes he say, I will be I might miss some of these hadith to declare whether they are sahih or da'if. So Imam An-Nawawī confesses that some of the hadiths, he didn't have time to look at them and to check upon their authenticity. And that is what is the case. So we find, for example, some examples there where Imam An-Nawawī had taken a hadith where Abu Dawud did not say anything regarding this hadith, and upon which Imam An-Nawawī had declared this to be authentic, but Imam An-Nawawī, he himself did not say it is authentic. Imam An-Nawawī, in his book, Sunan Abu Dawud, we have hundreds of hadiths which are not authentic. And when Imam Abu Dawud, he's got a distinguishing thing regarding his Sunan. When he puts a chapter title in his book, Kitab al-Tahara, and he puts the hadith there, he's not saying that these hadiths to be sahih, but he says these are the most authentic hadith regarding this chapter. So if it is, for example, nothing sahih is there, then you don't look further than this. This is the most authentic that I brought to you, but it doesn't mean it is authentic. It means the most authentic of the hadith, it doesn't mean it is authentic in itself. But if you find that this one, number one, or this hadith is not, or these hadith is not authentic, then don't look further than that. Because the ones who are going to look further than that, you're going to find it more weaker than the one I got to. This is like the cream of the crop, the best of the goods I'm telling you, which is a very important issue. Also, we have that, Al-Imam An-Nawawī rahmatullahi alayhi, basically he had put these hadith which are da'ifa, hadith which did not check them up. That is, I would say, a downside of Imam An-Nawawī, because his book now became a book that is like after Quran and Sunnah, we have the book of Sālihīn, and the people depending upon a hadith, which is not authentic, and they take it to be authentic, and they argue about it. It is in Sālihīn, or it is the hadith is not authentic. That is why it is important for us to point out the unauthenticity of these hadith. Now, also we find in this another thing, which is that Al-Imam An-Nawawī, in some hadiths, he had said that this hadith had asanid sahihah, narrations which are authentic. Okay, and he is actually presenting some ideas to the reader that this is hadith which comes from more than one sahabi, more than one companion, which is not the case. And so many times we find him that is actually meant that this hadith is reputable, it's got reputation, but it's actually only one companion narrated it. But in some of the narrators before the companion, it had some other, we call it turuq, not asanid. It's not means to the companion, different. It's not, but this is like different route, but it's still to the same companion from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's another issue that we could find in the book of Imam An-Nawawī, Riyādh Sālihīn. Also, we find that sometimes he makes tolerance in quoting the who's this hadith belong to. What I mean by that, let's say for example he says muttafaqun alayhi, this hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, but we find that actually the wording of the hadith, it is only to one of them, not to both of them. And actually Al-Imam Al-Hafidh Al-Munziri, Al-Imam Al-Hafidh Ibn Hajar Al-Asqalani, Al-Imam Al-Hafidh also Suyuti, and all of those, they had actually did something similar to this. So we find that this is not a big issue. Like example I give you here, Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Muslimu, the Muslim, man salima al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. The Muslim, whom the Muslims are safe against his tongue and against his hand. And the continuation of this hadith, wal-muhajiru man hajara ma nahallahu an. And the immigrant, the real immigrant, is the one who migrates away from what Allah had prohibited. Then he says muttafaqun alayh, that means agreed upon by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. But actually we find that this is only for Al-Bukhari. Muslim, he quoted only the beginning of the hadith, which is the Muslim, the real Muslim, whom the Muslims are safe against his tongue and his hand. But Muslim does not mention the second part where the real immigrant, so on and so forth. So that is, as I said, from the tolerance of Imam An-Nawawī in quotation. And you find that as well, for example, in hadith Aisha radiallahu anha wa ardaha, which is the hadith in number 504 in the book. Okay, as the first hadith, Muslim you could find it in 211, 211, and this one 504. This is an example. Aisha, she said that the Prophet he died while his shield was pawned for a Jew regarding or against 30 sa' of barley, and he says muttafaqun alayh, agreed upon. And actually, this is the wording of Imam Bukhari. And Muslim, he did not mention it. He did not even mention the 30 sa' of barley, and he mentioned a different route, but they actually almost the same. But as I said, if you're going to go by the terminology of the muhaddithin, they would not say like this muttafaqun alayh. They would say muttafaqun alayh, but the wording is for Bukhari. The wording is for Bukhari, not just like that, because it will be saying something against Imam Muslim. Muslim did not say that, he did not mention that hadith in his book. Okay, this is basically something quick I wanted to mention about the introduction of Al-Imam An-Nawawī rahmatullahi alayhi. Let's just continue his words, only a few words left.